Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of our 2020 series. Behind us, we have the 2020 Honda CRF450, and last year, we had a love-hate relationship with this bike. It actually ranked 5th, actually tied for 5th with the RMZ 450. Really why that was due to the really fidgety chassis. It was really twitchy and nobody can get it figured out. Everyone we put on it just didn't feel comfortable. On the other hand, this was the fastest engine ever produced, I think, in stock trim. It had 60 horsepower, which is incredible. This bike is super fast. There's not a lot to complain about the engine. We didn't care for their maps too much last year. For 2020, they revised a few things. They revised the forks with more dampening force to slightly increase the low to mid, because last year the forks were really diving a lot. And as far as the shock, there's slightly more compression, and the shim stack on the rebound has been stiffened. It also comes with new brake pads. They didn't tell us if they were more for durability or more for performance. We also had cooling issues with the rear brake. They took the brake disc guard on the back and really just cut it in half. They really made it really small so it can get more flow. And one of the bigger changes they made, they lowered the battery position by 28 millimeters in the airbox. They say it's for a better center of gravity. We think it's just for better airflow. They also added what they call a torque setting. It's another button added to the handlebars. Essentially, it's just traction control. There's 3 different modes, and this is where it really gets complicated. You have the 3 different maps, you have the 3 different torque settings, and you have the 3 different launch control settings. You change the 3 different maps by holding the blue map button for 3 seconds, and then it'll blink 3 times, which is the aggressive map. If you push it again, you'll get the mellow map, which is blinks twice. And then if you hold it again, you will get the standard map, which just blinks once. If you want to use the torque setting, same thing, you hold it for 3 seconds and it turns on. And it goes from 1 to 3 on this instead of 3 to 1. So the first setting takes off the least revs. The second setting, more revs. And the third setting, it takes off the most revs. Now when you shut off the bike, the torque setting is still engaged when you turn back on the bike, just like the map setting. But it's different for the start device. Obviously, when you start that back up, it turns off. To initiate the launch control, you have to hold the start button for 3 seconds, and then the map switch will turn purple instead of blue. To change those settings, you hit the start button again, and it'll blink once, same thing, blink twice, blink 3 times to initiate those different settings. So you have a smorgasbord of different settings on here. That's kind of complicated. Actually, it's really complicated. The more we rode with it, the more we understood it, the more testing we're gonna get on it. Obviously, we're gonna figure it out. We hope the minor changes will make the bike easier to ride, more manageable. We're gonna get Josh Mosen out there, myself, and a bunch of other guys out there really giving us a first impression to iron out this bike. Hey guys, it's been a long day at testing. We got here at 7:30 a.m. It is now 4:30 at Glen Helen, and if you've ever been to Glen Helen at 4:30 on a Thursday, it gets gnarly out there. So I feel like we really made some improvements with the Honda. When we first got on the bike, we had the same initial impressions we did last year. Obviously the bike was fast. Chassis was just super twitchy. The faster I rode, more scared I was to ride it. We made a few tweaks, just like last year, lowered the forks and the clamps by 2 millimeters, and that really got the bike to handle a little better, to stabilize the bike. And the sag last year we ran at like 108. So last year we had a really weird setup to make it actually just rideable. This year the few tweaks they did to the suspension made it easier to set up, and it wasn't as extreme. So at 105 with the forks slid down and the clamps by 2 millimeters, stock is 5, so it's at 3 millimeters. Really balanced out the chassis. As far as clickers, for my weight, we went a few clicks stiffer on the rear, digging in really bad in softer corners and those walling a little bit. What I was really impressed with, those small changes really made the bike more stable. And that's what I was really looking for, because last year I was scared to ride the bike and I couldn't find a happy medium. It wasn't perfect, because when I went further that way, made the bike worse in certain areas, like G-outs and stuff like that. It couldn't take it. We're really kind of maxed out in the settings as far as that. So it's not the best handling bike by any means, but it is a huge improvement over last year. So we had Josh Mosman, he liked the more busy feeling of the Honda compared to the KX, where I like a slower motion. I know nothing's really gonna wrong, I can react to it. The Honda, when it reacts fast, and I can't really react that fast to it. I feel like I'm, you know, gonna fall or crash or something like that. As far as the engine, the engine's incredible. I mean, I can't really say enough about how fast this bike is. It is almost too aggressive, but what they did with the 3 maps this year, they really made 3 good maps, 2 that we really like. The standard map really mellows out the bottom, the mid at the corners. It almost feels like the clutch is slipping. I keep on, like, I know this bike doesn't have the strongest clutch, so I thought it was slipping a little bit. So out of the corners, actually almost feels like it's slipping the clutch out, and it just kept the front end down. It was easy to ride through the corners and stuff like that. So that's map 1, which is standard. Map 3, the aggressive map, I really like that map. It's not super aggressive, but it kind of ramps up, but it is sometimes too much, like uphills and stuff like that. It's great once you're moving. If you're coming to a really tight rut, then it kind of explodes with power, and that's where I use the torque setting. So then I started messing with the torque setting, and I used the first torque setting, which is the mellowest traction control. It takes the least amount of R's off, and that helped with a lot of things I was surprised about. It made the bike actually settle more on high speed stuff, so it made it less twitchy, and I think that's just due to the fact when it's just such a powerful bike, it kind of calms the bike down. It doesn't allow the tire to spin as much. It tracks better. And then actually in the corners with the aggressive map, they kind of tame that down a little bit when it got wheel spin or whatever. So as far as the traction control, which we've kind of, a lot of manufacturers, KTM especially, I thought the KTM traction control was more of a marketing feature than it was for performance, because we tried it, nobody really liked it. They tried it in different sections, and if it's muddy or something like that, it works okay. This traction control is the best feature we've rode with. It works, and we like it, which we were really shocked on. In the past, it really hasn't done anything for us. So we were really surprised on that, and that really calmed the bike down. Some guys like the one up on the torque setting, which actually kind of like helped guys out of the corners a little more, and when it was when the rear end was coming around, it kind of helped set that so it didn't come all the way around. A few issues we had on the first day, and these are kind of the same issues we had last year. The bike was overheating a little bit when we stopped and go during photos, and even when we came back after just riding a few motos, coolant was spewing out of the overflow hose, and it was a little low on coolant. Also, the front brake was super spongy. It faded after a day of riding, so we probably have to change the oil, bleed the brake and stuff like that. Fill you in on how that works out in the full test. I think last year we took the front guard off to get more cooling effect on there, because that holds heat in. Another thing that's worth mentioning as far as cornering, it gets in the corner really well, but it likes to stand up in the middle, and that's a tricky thing as far as the balance of the bike. If we keep the clamps at 5 mil, then it'll track a lot better through the corner, but then it gets shaky at speed. So it's a give and take. I'd rather be planted at speed, have a little trouble in the corner, just to be on the safe side. So overall, this bike is a better bike for the small changes they made. They definitely made improvements, and I think it really takes it a step up, and we were impressed with the changes they made. We're really curious on how, when we get the KTM, the Husky, all the bikes really together, to really compare the bikes. So as always, check out a future issue of Motocross Action magazine for the full test of this bike, as well as all the other bikes. Shootouts coming up quick, so be prepared for that. All the bikes are coming all at once. As always, go to motocrossactionmag.com for all the latest news, updates on all the 2020 gear, bikes, and if you missed any of our latest releases, here's your chance to catch up.